Hi, Ben Giganda here with Giganda Family Farms. We got a small beef herd that we've started a couple years ago. And they are looking pretty content, but we're gonna move them because it's pretty early spring. And I'm just kind of going around trying to quickly graze things just so that everything doesn't go to seed. So the hopes is that the cows kind of zoom around and just kind of do a light clipping of it. And then once the grass starts to get a little bit too far ahead of me, I'll slow the cows way down. It hasn't been dry at all. We've gotten just an absolute ton of rain this spring. But that does not mean we're not going to have a dry summer, so we kind of got to feel it out for when we get there. But if it starts to dry out this summer is when we'll really start to slow the cows down, just to build that stockpiled forage up for this winter coming up. The birds are very active, but yeah, so you can see a lot of the residual grass that we left from last winter and last summer. So we just got a ton of mulch, which is just gonna keep the soil covered up, and that is our worm food. You can see that a little bit of hairy vetch starting to come in too. It's a little early for vetch, but that's another huge benefit up in the northern country, and we're in upstate New York. Vetch is a really good source of selenium for the cows, and most beef cattle up in New York are selenium deficient. So it's a good thing to, and when you start letting the grass grow up tall, it's just amazing how much vetch comes in. It's also a good legume, which is going to be a nitrogen builder. So legumes pull nitrogen from the atmosphere and pump it into the soil. Come on, girls. Come on, cows. Come on, girls. It's going to be tough getting them up. They're being lazy bums. I don't blame them though. I wouldn't want to wake up either. It's a chilly day today. It's about 61 degrees today. But that's pretty typical. May we can go all over the board. We can get down into the 50s and go all the way up into the 70s. It's kind of wishy-washy, but it's been a wet, cold spring really. Cows are looking good. There'll be a lot of these cows are pregnant. They'll be dropping calves within the next 2 months. And hopefully we get some of that on film, but we'll see. But what we're doing is we're moving this way across this ridge is east. So we're heading east across the top of this farm. You can see that old silo way over there. So there's a field just around that barn. And so we're gonna be moving east, and then we're gonna head south just slightly and then run back west across the bottom here. And then my home farm, because this farm we're just leasing, is through the woods there. And then it's only 35 acres of pasture land, and it's about 35 acres of woods, and that's the home farm. So that 35 acres the plan is to get down there, which is where I wintered the cows for a lot. I let my place stockpile last winter, so we moved down to my place in late December. And then we're able to graze that right through February. And until pretty much March was it's just so stinking wet in New York. And the problem is what I have, and I'm trying to work around it to keep the cows out on the fields 365 days a year. I just cannot crack the code, because getting them feed and water has just been a huge problem. Because even when I stage hay out there, it's like you have to make a choice. Are you going to leave the four-wheeler out there? And I don't like leaving stuff like that out in the weather, just to feed them hay through that March season before the grass starts flushing out. So I do have a barn, and we do graze as much of the year as we can, but this year we were about almost 5 weeks we had them in the barn. And I kind of took the Joel Salatin method. Hey, big guy. This one's kind of a pet to us. Hey there, Dell. What do you say, big guy? Word to the wise: don't let the kids name the cows, because then they have a hard time getting rid of them. Yeah, you like your chin rubbed, don't you? This one's a goofball. Ah, yeah. This one is a clown. You are a clown. He likes getting his scratches, but this one's a steer. In this herd, we only have 2 steers. We were so fortunate last summer, man. We had nothing but heifer calves, which is great. And a lot of them were starting to get some red. You know, we have a couple red Devons, and we bred to a light colored bull. And the reason for that is because the fly load on the red animals, especially slick hair coat animals. Would you quit pushing me? This is gonna be a problem when he gets bigger. But yeah, and that's actually our other steer calf right there. He's only 10 months old. He's got a lot of leg on him. So we're trying to breed for a red colored animal, red slick hair coat animal. That's one of the Devon's babies that he's crossed with a Semitol bull. And actually, a lot of these were bred to a Semitol. It was actually a buckskin brown Semitol, and my videos from last summer kind of show that. But this guy, he's black Angus, but he's half black Angus and half red Angus bull, purebred. That we'll end up breeding. I know it. We'll wind up breeding with him for this year. Come on, girls. Ouch. Oops. I probably should have showed how I had that looped. Come on, girls. But I know there's just a ton of grass, and people would probably think, why are you leaving so much grass behind? But it's really an effort to kind of, you can see a lot of this is booting out already with seed heads. So what we try to do in the early spring, and I learned this from a guy, and I don't know if it's the right method or not, but we're trying to keep the grass lush and green for as long as possible. So if you go around and clip off the seed heads, it kind of stalls it from going lignant on you a little bit, and then it just starts regrowing again. Ooh, they're getting a little hyper today. But so in the beginning of the year, hey, you got a bunch of poop on you. But this one's one that we're gonna send. A lot of these animals are crossed with dairy cows. That's one of the red Devons, because our motto when we got started with our farm was as cheap as possible. And start there. So we just started the cheapest options possible. You can see that little red calf. That really is what we're kind of looking for. So and we're looking for red specifically for the lack of fly load on them, because the black animals, one, when it's hot in the middle of summer, the black hair coat is just attracting so much heat. Like I actually have a little heat gun, and I'll do a video of that this summer. But you can shoot that heat gun on their back and measure how hot it gets. And some of them, I mean, on a 90, 95 degree day, their backs get upwards of 118 degrees. And the red hair coats or the lighter hair coat, I mean, you can shave like 10 degrees off of that. And then a slick hair hided animal, the black also, just to me, it attracts so many flies. Just so many more flies are attracted to that black as compared to the red. I mean, they still, all the cows get flies on them in the summer. There's nothing you can do about it to some degree. One thing that I have noticed though is if you let the grass get up wicked tall and let them trample, you know, leave about a third of it still standing, the spiders, you would not believe how many spider webs we have out here in the summertime. I mean, you'll look at it on a nice dewy morning, and you can really see the dew when it's sticking to the spider webs, and it's unbelievable. I mean, a paddock this size will have 200 fly webs on it, and you know, even if every one of them isn't catching a couple flies, it's still, I mean, it's a natural, you know, it's a natural way of managing flies, you know. And then also when they got long hair, the grass is super tall, the cows got their heads down all day, and so they're not going to be getting those leg flies. Their head's going to be buried down in grass, so the flies aren't going to be getting all in their eyes and everything. And it makes a huge difference if you just let the grass grow up tall. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of farms around me in this area in New York, it's just the old set stock grazing, and it was just, that was the way it's always been done. And I've had a couple farm tours and a couple beef farmers that are around us that came and checked my farm out and stuff, and I kind of showed them what I was doing, and I'm like, man, I cut my days on hay way down. You know, this last winter we only fed 85 round bales, which seems like a lot, but compared to what I had been doing with a quarter of the amount of animals, it's like nothing. So it's, you know, last winter it only cost me about $160 an animal to get them through the whole year. So a whole year it physically only cost me $160, $170 in feed. Now that's not including how much the lease costs, because this land I am leasing it, but it's just the economics are there when instead of harvesting that hay, you're leaving it standing out in the field and then letting the cows go out and do the work of harvesting the hay. It's just, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it just makes so much sense. This goofball's coming back. I gotta close this gate because I don't want to get attacked by him trying to get pets, which is a bad plan. So I want to show you this. So I just take two of these posts and I double them, and then I twist the reel around backwards, and then you just go down. Now that wire is crossing right there, and now you got power. And those two posts, this third one's not doing anything. When I had ran this string out, it was just an extra post, so I stuck it in the ground so that when I drive around to collect it with the four-wheeler, it'll be right here. But that's how I hang my reels at the end of the run, so that whole reel is hot. So this whole leg of wire is now hot because I just have these little plastic ends at the other side. But it works really well. It holds them off the ground. And that's it. That was the cow move for today. And all this fencing that we have in here, we set up 3 paddocks worth, so 3 days worth of feed. And I just feed out of my wagon here with water. And the water was before right there in my previous video. So I just topped that off last night, and then I moved the wagon down there. And now I'll go take that water, I'll dump it out, and then go move it down there and fill it. And then that'll be the water point for the next 2 days. But all this fence, I know it seems like a lot. It was probably about, I don't know, 100 posts or so. And I set up, I think it's 5 reels, so I still got one. I only have 6 reels, so those good geared reels. But I mean, it didn't even take an hour to set up 3 days worth. And that honestly was, you know, the kids were out here with me and my wife, and it wasn't like we were hustle. It was, you know, just observing, and we were chit-chatting and talking, and the kids had their little 4-wheeler out here, and the chain popped off of it a couple times. So it, you know, I say an hour for 3 days of feed, or 3 days worth of moves. You know, on a weekend, I can set up a week's worth. If I had more material, I bet you I could set up a whole week's worth by myself in 3 or 4 hours. So it's 3 or 4 hours worth of work on a Saturday. And, you know, obviously you got to get water. Right now, this time of year, those 2 tanks, it's lasting almost a week. It's like 6 days I'm getting out of it, 6-7 days. But even then, in the dead of summer with this many animals, it'll last 3 or 4 days. And it's, you know, all things considered, yeah, the daily moves take about 5 minutes. And just checking the cows. But I mean, I'm not even kidding you, doing water, setting up all this fence, moving the cows every day. It's 4 or 5 hours of work a week max, and that's kind of like the maximum in our worst case scenarios, which seems like a lot to a lot of people, but honestly, I love it. I absolutely love getting out here. It's my favorite thing to do. I love getting out here with the kids and the family, and I love it when we got a bunch of little calves running around and being born, and it's the best. You get out in nature every day and can just watch, and you get to listen to them just munching grass, which is the best sound in the whole world. When they're turning sunshine into protein, there ain't a cooler sound in the world. And it's the best. Couple hours of work a week, and that's it, to raise a whole herd of cattle. And I'm very optimistic. The more videos I post, and I kind of chase this stuff on YouTube and everything, and I mean, there's guys doing incredible things with their soil and old degraded soil that, you know, they're all kinds of stuff they're doing, and it's so cool to see. It's like really starting to see more and more people going this route of regenerative agriculture, or intensive grazing, or there's all these different terminologies for it, but it's simply just moving the cows and making a miniature migration, which is exactly how the buffalo were raised on the Great Plains. It's exactly that. We're making a controlled migration. And the buffalo used to do a 365-day rotation called a migration. And so we're just trying to make as long of a rotation as we pot. Look at her bagging up, man. She's gonna be dropping a calf soon. She's bagging up like crazy. And but yeah, you're mimicking nature. This is how grass and bovines evolved together. What's she doing? It's how they evolved. The grass got grazed and trampled and then had rest periods. And it really is that simple. And then they go around and they select the nutrition that they need, because dandelions, which he's about, yep, see, he just ate a dandelion. All these things have medicinal purposes, and the cows know the ration that they need. So they will start eating forbs, they'll start eating weeds, they'll start eating all the things that when you do plowing and tillage work, you're trying to plant like a specific grass type, where these cows just, they ration their own diet if you give them the chance. You know, and it's amazing to watch it. It's really interesting, and it can be this simple. It's just so stinking simple. And it's good for the environment, it's good for the soil, it's good for the cows, it's good for the human beings that are eating these cows. See that little babies getting curious. Well, and that's the day. This is, if I could get a herd of these guys right here. This red one, that's a year-old animal. So she's like a year-old right now, just perfect. Nice and low to the ground, short and stocky, red hair coat, light hair coat. Shedding off now, like she's shedding her winter hair coat, so she's starting to slick out. Not as slick as I would like it, but she's got a good shape. If I could have a herd of you, I would be happy. And this year, like this one, you can really see the dairy genetics in her rear end. And we'll let her spit out another calf for us, and then late fall, we'll wean the calf, and then she's gonna go to the butcher. And that one there is too. Those two. I think there was one more that we were thinking about. That one right there we might send. It's because she's just a dairy genetic animal. And those genetics, we're going to start honing them now that we're building up our cow numbers and we got enough heifers out here that are going to be getting bred. We're just going to start honing our genetics for grass. What I'm looking for with the, like I was saying, with the fly load stuff, I want a slick hair coat, light colored animal, and low to the ground. I want 1,000, 1,100 pound cow max, which she's going to be just there. She'll be right there, right where I want them. See it's like some of the stuff you see they're weeds, but that's what they're going for first. They just got moved into this, and they're eating the weeds first. Goes to show you there's nutrition in that they're lacking and they need, so they're seeking it out. There's no monocrops in nature, I can tell you that much. There's no monoculture. There's no one type of grass or one type of plant for a whole entire field. That doesn't compute in nature. But I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks for watching.